So, welcome everyone to the part 5 of OOP with R. In this video, we will talk about the last topic of loops, which is nested loops. So, we will discuss the following topics regarding nested loops. First one is what is a nested loop? Next, we will see some conditional statements in nested loop. And in the last, we will see some control statements such as break and next statement in nested loop. So what is a nested loop? A nested loop is a loop inside another loop. Unless a final condition is satisfied for the inner loop will be executed for each iteration in the outer loop of a nested loop. For loops and while loops can both be nested inside a for loops. So let's see the syntax for a nested loop. Now you can see here that this is an example of a for loop inside a while loop. Now you must know that you can also make a while loop inside a for loop and a for loop inside a for loop. Now let's see the examples of each of them one by one. Let's move to our studio. Let's say you have a while loop, and for that, you define an indexing variable. Let's say var1 contains the value of 1, and while loop will be executed until var1 is smaller than or equals to 3. And inside the while loop, you make a for loop. And for that, you say for var2 in 1, 2, 3, and then you say print and paste my var1 is var1 and var2 is var2. And outside of the for loop, you change the condition for the while loop. And I say var1 equals to var1 plus 1. Now let's run the loop. So you can see here that my var1 is 1 and for the value of var2 is also 1. But the next iteration, the value of var1 is also 1, but the var2 value has been changed. It's because in the first iteration of while loop, the value of var1 was 1, but inside the for loop, the value kept incrementing until the condition became false. So the control came out of for loop and it went down here and incremented the value for var1. So the var1 became 2. And you can see it here. Now let's say I want to do the same thing, but this time I want my while loop to be inside the for loop. So I will say for, and inside the for loop, I will say var3 in 1, 2, 3 because I want to do the 3 iterations for my for loop. And inside the for loop, before defining a while loop, I will first define or create an indexing variable. Let's say var4 that has a value of 1. And now I will use the while keyword, and inside the parenthesis, I will say run the while loop 3 times. So I will say run it until the value of var4 is smaller than or equals to 3. Now inside the brackets, I will say print and then paste and my value for var3 is var3, and my value for var4 is var4. And then after the print statement, I will change the condition for my while loop by saying var4 equals to var4 plus 1. All right, let's run it. So this is absolutely the same as the above one. You can see that there were 3 iterations for the inner loop, which was while loop, and the value was 1 for each of the iteration because the value for for loop was 1. Now, there is a third method that can be done to accomplish the same task. You can say for, and let's say var5 in 1 to 3, and then inside the for loop, you create another for loop and you say for var6 in 1 to 3, and then brackets, and then print, paste, and you say my var5 is var5, and my var6 is var6. Let's run it. So it has given the same output as the above ones. So you have learned how to use the nested loops. Now let's say you have a vector of size and you have different size such as small, medium, and large. And you have also a shop, and this shop have different items such as burgers, pizza, and pasta. Now, what I will do is create an outer for loop. I will say for I in size, and inside this outer loop, I will say for j in shop. And now here I will say print and paste, and I will say paste I and j. So technically this is gonna say small burgers, small pizza, small pasta. Then there will be a second operation of the outer loop that contains sizes. So it will say medium burgers, medium pizza, and medium pasta. So that is how it's gonna work. Let's run it and see. Now you can see here that there are 3 iterations of inner loop for each iteration of the outer loop. Now let's move forward. So you can see here that next we have conditional statements in nested loop. If and if else statements are examples of conditional or control statements that let you alter the output and alter the program's flow in response to certain conditions. Let's put them in a nested loop to see how it works there. Let's say I copy the same chunk of code, but this time I say that if I equal small and j equal pizza, then I will print small pizza found and can be seen below. All right, let's run it. So this time you can see here that the control has detected and the if condition was true. So it said small pizza found and can be seen below. But let's say this time we change the things and use an else structure. And this time I say big instead of small. And if big pizza is found, then run or execute this print statement. But if not, then run this else part. And in the else part, I will say big pizza not found. Alright, so in the else part, I have changed the condition. Now let's see what is the output. Well, obviously we can see here that the big pizza is not found, so the else part was executed. Now let's move forward. The sequence of execution is changed by control statements in a loop structure. When execution exceeds a scope, all automatically created objects that were created are destroyed. The control statements listed below are supported by R, such as break statement and next statement. When a break statement is met inside a loop, the control ends the loop and moves on to the statement that comes after the loop. Even though the loop condition is true, this control statement breaks it. Let's see an example of it. Let's say I print out the size in shop items. Let's say for I in size and for J in shop. And inside this inner for loop, I say print and then paste and I say IJ. All right. So we have these items in different sizes, but this time I say I equals medium and J equal burgers. Then what you have to do is to break the loop and come out. Now let's run this chunk of code because we know that we don't have any items after the medium burgers such as medium pizza and medium pasta. So the inner loop will be terminated and the control will move to the outer loop and the next statement after medium burgers will be large burgers. Let's run it. So we were right. Now let's move back to slides. Next we have this next statement, which is also a control statement. The next statement in the R programming language can be useful when we want to skip the current statement or iteration of a loop and begin next iteration without terminating the loop. Let's see an example of it. Well, since we know that we have different items of different sizes in our show, so I will just print them. Once again, I will say for I in size, and then in the inner loop, I say for J in shop, and then I say print and paste, and inside this paste, I say I and J. So I'm just simply running this chunk of code to see what I have. All right. So now this time let's suppose I want to skip this statement of large burgers because we are out of the stock of large burgers today and we have everything else except this. So in order to do that, I will say if I equal large and J equal burgers, then next. So with the help of this next keyword, I'm just going to skip this statement and pass the control to the next statements. See, everything else has been executed except large burgers. Let's move back to slides. So today you have learned about nested loops and how we can use conditional and control statements inside them. And I hope that so far you have developed a good understanding of how to use the loops. Now, good luck. See you next time.